Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Unlikely Saints podcast. Today, we actually have a special type of twist. So, today we got Gus with us. I've known Gus for probably 13 years now.
Yep.
And we connected at the same church. We've actually worked similar jobs together. And today, Gus is actually going to be interviewing me. So, today you'll have a chance to hear my story. So, let's get into it.
So that's good. I'm excited because I'm probably going to change up some of your questions.
Sure you are.
And we're going to talk about how, like, your story and how you got here now that you're creating Unlikely Saints, right? And you're wanting to share these people's stories, your stories, to get people that are either in that lifestyle to come out or give them hope that they can come out, right?
Yeah.
Or those that are already out, give them hope that you can stay out, right?
Yeah.
You can stay, and more than just coming out, it's about actually just finding stability in Jesus,
Yeah.
right? So we were talking a little bit before we started recording, and you were telling me a little bit, like, you were comparing yourself to the stories that have been shared so far.
Yeah.
So tell us about your upbringing, your life, and up until those moments that you got introduced to this type of lifestyle.
Yeah. So I was born and raised in LA, all throughout LA, born in East LA, grew up in the San Fernando Valley, downtown LA. And I mean, for me, it wasn't like I wasn't brought up in that. You know, my parents were, I think when I was around 3 years old, my parents got saved and they started going to church. But growing up, my dad he was abusive. And so I remember it, like I don't remember a lot about my past, but I remember going to Sunday school, hearing about God the Father, and then I'd come home and I'd get beat over doing something so minimal. And I'm like, this is the Father. And so I just remember like closing my heart off to this. Like I don't want anything to do with God the Father if my father is like this, you know? And so I remember kind of putting up like a blockade between me and the church, and you know, I started lashing out, you know, rebelling, doing stuff at church and Sunday school, and then obviously in, you know, normal school, and then didn't want anything to do with the Lord. And so it was around probably 12 or 13 that I started getting introduced. I mean, I got introduced to it a lot further before due to music. And I think a lot of people don't understand the influence
With the
of
language
music.
and stuff.
Yeah. With,
And
you know, listening.
music videos and stuff.
Yeah, you know, listening to Tupac, NWA, you know, Biggie Smalls, like you hear it what's the word I'm looking for? It makes it just
Intriguing.
it makes it intriguing. It makes it appealing.
Yeah.
It makes it look like this is the life. And so I was introduced to that. I mean, probably like 8, 9 years old, started listening to hip hop. And so then it was around like 12, 13 when I started really like wanting that life, and seeing so many people around me, like in my apartment complex, in my neighborhood, that were gangbanging. And I'm like, you know, I want to know what this is about. And so it started with, I remember I was in middle school and it was my first arrest. And it was so dumb because I had like linked up with some friends, and that was my first time I was going to smoke weed. I think I was 12, and I was just excited to go smoke weed. And remember we left school. So we went to Nobel, which was like a school that had no fences.
Yeah.
And so, which is the dumbest thing to do. I don't
The
know
one on
why.
Tampa?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was so dumb. It's like no fences. And so it's like, yeah, we would just leave whenever we wanted. And so we walked out. I remember we were crossing the street, and then I see one of the security guards in his golf cart, like coming towards us. And we go and like we jump in this bush in some random person's house. And it's like kind of, my memory's kind of cloudy with it. But I remember we got caught. I think they found us. So they brought us back to school. But mind you, that day I was I had been blowing up M80 firecrackers all throughout the school. Like they were these illegal, homemade from Mexico, because my buddy had just gone to Mexico. He brought back a bunch of them, and we were like lighting them, like opening classroom doors, throwing them in, like just
during class.
During class. Like it was just ridiculous. So we get caught. I end up getting caught with illegal fire. It was crazy, bro. Like they like brought the bomb squad to the school.
Wow.
To and I see them, like, you know those like snake grabbers.
Yeah.
And I see them grabbing these little firecrackers, and I'm just like, bro, I just pulled these out of my pocket. You know, it's like they grabbed. So it's bomb squad. All this. I get arrested for possession of illegal fireworks and possession of marijuana, and that was my first arrest. And it led to me being expelled from the district. So I was out of LAUSD. I couldn't go to any other normal school. So they send me to a school. I forget what it was called, but it was literally a school of kids who had been expelled and kids coming out of juvenile hall. So then it was like, I'm 12 years old, and now I'm really exposed to this life, because now it's normal schools got, you know, the rebels, the bad kids, the wannabe gangsters.
But now every student
in this class, is either coming out of the halls, you know, gang banging. I remember we'd be like in the middle of class, kids would be sniffing cocaine like while they're teaching. Like it was just insane. We'd be outside giving each other tattoos, like just it was like prison, and it was ridiculous. And
that's wild.
Yeah, and so that's where I feel like I really got introduced to. It was no longer this fantasy of hearing it in music, hearing it, seeing it around. Like it was like, this is in front of me, and like I want this. And so that's how I got led up to that point.
Dang, that's wild. So it's crazy because you said from 3 your parents started going to church.
Yeah.
And let's stick to 13. So about 10 years later, you get introduced to this. And you mentioned that the biggest thing that happened in there was the disconnect between you and your dad.
Yeah.
Right? And that was the thing that was like unappealing then to God, because God is presenting himself as a father, right? And I'm asking you this because I know that your desire for this podcast is for people to come to God, come to knowledge of the Father.
Yeah.
But that was one of the major things that kept you from him.
Yeah.
Right?
For sure.
So you had that. So would you say that the influence of the music and then finding friends was like satisfying those desires of like you wanting to be seen, wanting to be loved or accepted and all that stuff?
Yeah, I mean, 100%. I think that's what, I mean, you talk to any gangster, anybody who's been affiliated, like even all the guys I've interviewed here, it's like we all wanted the same thing. We wanted family. We wanted a brotherhood, because our families weren't what we wanted. They weren't what was good. Like, my family wasn't broken in the sense that both my parents were separated and they weren't there, but they really just weren't there, you know? And even though my dad was physically there, he was never emotionally there. And even him physically being there, I didn't want him to be there because of what had happened. Yeah. And so I think all the guys who run into this lifestyle, it's because we're searching for a brotherhood. We're searching for people who will actually be there for us, which is just such a lie. Like it's so deceiving. It's so stupid to think, oh, I'm gonna run with this group of people who I'm gonna call family, but I gotta get beat up to just be a part of it. Then I gotta go do work. I gotta go sell drugs. I gotta go do this to this person and do whatever to be accepted. Yeah. It's like this isn't family. This isn't love. It's like that saying of,
but you can't tell at the time.
Yeah, of course, 100%. I mean, you're in it. Not only are you probably on drugs, so you're not even mentally there, but two, you're so embedded in this lifestyle, and it's all you know. You think like, nah, like they got me. They care for me. They love me, blah, blah. But it's like, you're really only valuable to them if you can do something. And so, I think in the moment, it definitely was fulfilling my desire to be accepted, to be valued. And so it was this thing of like, yeah, this is what I want, because is something I felt I hadn't had my whole life.
All right. So I'm going to ask you a very interesting question here. I'm thinking as you're talking.
Yeah.
You said since 3, your parents, you're 3, your parents get saved. You're coming to the church. You're going to Sunday schools. You're hearing something about God as the Father at the church. Mm-hmm. You're experiencing a different context of a father at home, right? But now, as you're talking, I'm thinking about these two different things and how twisted the enemy can just make it for us. Because you're saying you're 13 now, and to get accepted, to feel loved, to feel like you're part of the family, quote unquote, you got to get beat up. You got to pay a price. You got to do all these things. How is it then? I don't know if you have an answer for this. How is it then that even though you experienced the same thing at home,
yeah,
you got beat up, you had to pay a price, you had to do these things, and yet you didn't find family?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Does that make sense? Because
yeah.
I think the enemy is good at twisting it and saying like, oh, see over here, but you're still getting the same experience, except at the end of the day, you leave them, they're going to dip on you.
Yeah. I guess I think it's all just deception. And I think it comes down to like, one, for example, what I was saying, like I was just on drugs all the time. So I think mentally I wasn't even really there, but I think in the sense, the way the enemy I think can twist it is like me thinking, okay, well, my dad beats me, but he still doesn't accept me for who I am. And I think with the gang, it was like, all right, yeah, I get beat up to get into the gang. But in my mind, it's like, this is just initiation. Like, it's not like this is going to be an ongoing recurring thing, which is actually really stupid too, because if you don't show up to the hood meetings, you get packed out. So it's like, it's still the same thing. If you don't show up, you get beat, whatever, or you do something wrong. But, and I think it was like they did that, but in my mind, it was like they still accept me for who I am, for who I want to be, for how I want to be, whatever, regardless. Whereas with my dad, it's wanting to shove this Jesus down my throat that I don't care for, or wanting to talk to me about God and I don't want anything to do with any of that. Mm-hmm. And so I wonder if it was more so the label father was so twisted in my head, because it was, in my eyes, these were brothers. It wasn't like, these guys are my dad or anything like that. And which is actually pretty crazy now that I think about it too, because my brother would actually beat me too when I was, I don't know if I'd say he would beat me, but he would always put hands on me.
But you guys would squabble and fight.
Yeah, and obviously I was smaller. He would beat me up.
Now it's a different story though.
100%. Yeah. that changed real quick. That changed right when I started gangbanging. It was over. And so I guess I don't understand, because my view of a brother was also distorted. Yeah. Maybe it was this thought of like giving this an opportunity if this is going to be different.
But it's okay. So I think you're hitting it right when you said about just the view of the father, like the distortion and how the enemy could pervert that idea of God as that father. And then, correct me if I'm wrong, it's almost safe to say and to guess, and this is a sad statistic, that maybe 9 out of those 10, let's say 10 friends you had, all had father issues.
Oh yeah. 100%.
And so you found and this is where it gets twisted. You find who you are based on the similarities of the pain that they experience. And so you're more than the acceptance, right? I think maybe, correct me if I'm wrong, what I've seen is that people in the lifestyle and you at that time are probably finding more of like this camaraderie on the fact that we're all hurt by our dads. And so let's do something about it. Let's become brothers. Would that feel the same? Because would that feel like they all had daddy issues?
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure that's
more than mom issues.
It's pretty funny to see it like that, because most of the time you hear like daddy issues with a girl, but in reality, like I think and even all the guys I talk to here, like mostly all of them had a problem with their dad, or didn't know their dad, or didn't have never met their dad, like whatever it is. I think for the most part, most gangsters, it's an issue of having any sort of parental figure issue, whether it is a mom, whether it's a dad, whether it's, you know, like one of the guys I had on here who never knew his biological parents and was in foster care. Like, and so I think it all stems from broken homes. It all stems from wanting and desiring a family and something they didn't have, and being accepted.
Yeah.
That's it, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dang, that's crazy. So let's change it up now. From 3 to 13, you know, experiencing your dad in a physical manner at home with you, your siblings, your mom, and now you're at 13. Can you go back and remember if there was like a crossroads like this? I'm either going to choose this and stick with it, or actually, no, I want to be this. Because I'm assuming, we were talking earlier before the shows, that nobody grows up thinking, I'm going to be a gangbanger.
Yeah.
You know, I'm going to be this type of person. I'm going to destroy people's lives and whatever, and families and stuff, and sell drugs and whatever. Like, you're not thinking that at 3, I'm assuming, as much as you're experiencing pain. Mm-hmm. So is there like a moment that you remember where you're like, man, am I actually going to go this way?
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, it was literally the first day I sold my grandma weed, and I had money.
Wait. You sold who?
I sold a gram of weed.
Oh, I heard.
Oh, my grandma weed.
I sold my grandma.
No. It was the first time I sold a gram, and I just remember having this money in my hand. And I'm like, damn, like this was so easy. And it was from that moment, because I had started selling dope before I started gangbanging. And so I was just making money selling weed. And I remember it was that moment of like, man, I can make money this easy and this quick. And it's like the demand and supply. Like it'll never run out of demand. The only thing I'll run out of is supply.
Right.
And it's like, if I know I have a place where I can go pick this up and get as much as I want. And, you know, we would go up to Bakersfield and pick up 2 black hefty trash bags worth of weed from a farm and come back down. Like, so it was like, I think we would have probably
for context, those listening or watching, that's a 3-4 hour drive.
Yeah.
Or if it's from LA, maybe 4 to 5 hours, depending on the traffic, just to get out there and get a bag. Yeah. That's one way. That's not even
and we would come back with, it was probably, I think it would come out to be like 5-6 pounds of weed. And I think the going rate back then, I don't even remember. I want to say it was $2,000 a pound.
Wow.
And so we had 5 and 6. So let's just say 5 pounds. That was a $10,000 drive. You know what I mean? And we would pay, you know, half. So we make $5,000 out of driving to Bakersfield and back, and we would sell out. And I mean, it was always random. It would just change. But yeah, it was that moment of just knowing, like, bro, I can do this. I can make money. I can, like, I don't. And I think it was this thing in me of trying to even more so disassociate from my family. Of like, I don't need you for anything. Like, I can do this all by myself. Yeah. And so, yeah, it was that moment. I just started selling dope, and I was like, yeah, this is what I want to do. And then I remember having that thought of, and I remember not that long ago, I had seen the movie Scarface, and like, that was my dream. I was like, I want to be the Scarface of LA.
That's
wild. Yeah, it was nuts.
So having that money, this is just out of curiosity now, like, was it around this time that you're feeling some satisfaction? Like, oh, this is what those songs talk about. Like, I'm
for sure.
I'm loaded with cash. I can get whatever girl. I'm assuming you were getting girls because, you know, you were someone on the block now and stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
And was that some sort of weird satisfaction of like, I'm living the song dream, like the dreams of the songs?
Yeah, that was like, in my eyes, I was like, I'm living the dream. And that was, and mind you, that was even before gangbanging. That was like, you know, I had more money than I knew what to do with. I had, you know, I was Mr. Popular at school because I was the dope dealer. Like, everybody knew me because they needed weed, and I always had weed. And that led to, you know, me hanging out with girls, you know,
Yeah.
and doing whatever.
Yeah.
And it
Reading books. Yeah. I guess.
yeah, studying. And so it put me in this place of like I'm the man. Like and all everything these songs would talk about, and it was just like, bro, like I'm living out what these guys are talking about, and I was loving it.
And so when you hear them all over again, it's like, it's more fuel. You're just like, yep, that's
Yeah,
me.
100%. I remember like there's so many songs that like songs will make you feel things, you know. And I remember like there were certain songs that I would listen to that would just make me aggressive, and there were songs that like if I was, you know, I when I was in high school too, I also got into football, and I remember you'd always listen to a certain song, you know, before you're gonna go out in the field, or and so for me it was listening to this music to continue to fuel what I was feeling, of just, you know, I'm making money, I'm doing all these things, and mind you, the whole time, like there was literally never a minute I wasn't on some sort of drug, whether it was ecstasy or shrooms or weed or whatever, or just drinking. And so, yeah, I was just fully embedded in that life. And mind you, that was all before even getting jumped into the hood.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So then let me go back so at 13, what do you recall wanting to be that wasn't this? Like, what was your dream thinking, when I grow up, I'm going to be this? Like,
Nothing. My dream was to be Scarface, because the only other thing I enjoyed was playing ball. But I knew, I'm like, bro, I'm not some, you know, 6 foot beefy, like I'm not making it to the NFL.
right.
So it was this thing of like my only, I think, like attainable goal in my life was to become the biggest dope dealer in LA, because I'm like, I'm not going to make it in the NFL. This is cool. I'll play ball for now. It's fun. I enjoy it. But there was no other hope or aspiration. And also growing up from, you know, an immigrant family, it's like you're not taught the keys to success. You're not taught. Dream. Yeah, you're not taught to dream. You're taught to work your 9 to 5, work hard, keep your head down. Yeah, like, and that's it. And so I was never taught, you know, entrepreneurship. I was never taught investing, anything. And so, yeah, the only thing I could see in my life that was like attainable and I know I'm good at and I can do and become filthy rich is selling dope.
Dang.
So that was who I was going to become.
Yeah. That's wild. All right. So let's switch into where you become the unlikely saint.
Yeah.
Right. So let me break it down then before we get there, which is crazy because, you know, you said 3, your parents are coming to the Lord. You're 3. You're going to church, hearing something about God as the Father, experiencing a different Father. You get exposed to music at 8, rap music and all this stuff. And, you know, it gives you this false dream of like, you do this, you get this, right? And then you get to 12, 13, and you're introduced now to, hey, you can be the number 1 weed seller or whatever drug seller on the streets, or you could also join this gang, you know, and then become a part of that and stuff like that. The crazy thing in regards to your transition into becoming an unlikely saint is that despite, and I'm saying this to you because like, it might be things that you miss unless you stop to think about it, is that despite experiencing what you did with your dad, you know, and then there's that gap between whatever age 13 to 18, around there, right? It was around that time. But yet on the other side of all that, you still have your dad.
Yeah.
Your dad's still there. He was just here in Georgia a few months ago, you know, staying with you and helping you in your home. And the crazy thing is, none of those dudes are.
Yeah.
And it's this very interesting picture is that, and I'm saying this to point it out to you and to whoever else is hearing, is that, at least in your story, is that despite not having a perfect dad on the earth, he's still there.
Yeah.
He's still there on the other side. And it's almost the same experience we have with God. We reject God. We experience like, I don't want you, and then we go work on our testimony. And for you, it was from 13 to 18 and you'd live this lifestyle. And on the other side, he's like, I'm still here.
Yeah.
So what was that transition then when you came out of that, or what sparked it? What woke you up? What happened in there to becoming this unlikely saint now?
Yeah. So I remember in the midst of all this, I was obviously still living at home, just because I know my parents would still, if I were to be like, I'm moving out, or they'll call the cops on me, and I'm a minor. And so I was like, bro, screw it. I'm just going to. And I was like living at home, and my house was like a dope house. So, which was like, I don't know why my parents still let me live there.
You made it one.
Yeah, bro. Like, I remember it was funny. This one time I was, people would come up. So my room was like, we had finally moved out of apartment living like our whole lives. We got a house. And I remember my room is in the front of this house, and it would be like a drive-through, bro. Like, people would just pull up
to your window.
Yeah, they'd park, they'd come up. I would pop the screen off, sell it, pop the screen back on, and just hang out in my room. And
That's
then
so dangerous.
I remember one time, bro, this guy comes up, and I open my window. I try to take off my screen, and it's not coming off. And I'm like, bro, what's going on? I'm like shaking this thing, and I was like. And so then I go outside, I open the door, I go outside, bro, and I had seen my dad had screwed in the screen, like, all around, because he knew what I was doing. So then I remember one time I just cut a little square in the corner of the screen, and I would just sell through that little square. And then one time, like a month later, another dude pulls up, and I remember it so vividly. I was selling him some ecstasy, and I open the window, and I go, and I'm like, and I can't find the square little hole I cut. And I look at this side, and I look at this side, and I'm like, and I look up, and he had flipped the screen up, and the square was on. I was like, bro, this is crazy. So that's just a funny story.
That's hilarious.
So yeah, I mean, it had turned into this like dope house, but the whole time, my mom would still be like, every Sunday would be telling me about church and just be like, come to church. And I was like, no, like, I don't want that life. I don't want to be there. I don't want to do that. And I wouldn't disrespect them for what they believed in. It's like, you believe what you believe, that's fine. But like, I don't, and I'm not going. Mm-hmm. And I remember this one Sunday, or no, it wasn't a Sunday. This one time she tells me, listen, my church is having this event. If you go to it, I'll never bother you about church again. And so for me, it was this thing of like, as much as my home was broken, as much as everything was messed up, it was like, I still felt bad telling my mom every Sunday no. Like, I could see it in her face,
when she'd offer you,
when she'd tell me to go to church, and like, it sucked, and I hated making my mom feel that way. And so, but there was such a hurt in my heart with the Father that I didn't want anything to do. I didn't even want to sit in there, hear their songs, nothing. And so when she gave me this offer, and I'm like, you'll never bother me again. Like, never again. She said, never again. I'll tell you about church. And so I was like, all right, I'm in.
That's appealing.
Yeah, for real. And so it was this weekend retreat at this church, which you're familiar with. And she was slick, bro. Like, she knew everybody who goes to this thing gets some crazy encounter or something happens, right?
But that's what they were called.
Yeah, it was called the encounter back then. And so she knew what she was doing. And so I remember I'd agreed. I'm like, all right, I'll go to this thing. And then coming up to the dates, this was probably like a month or so prior to the actual retreat. And I remember coming up to the date, then I'm like, hey, I don't want to go. Like, I'm not going to go to this thing. And she was like, she hit me with the mom guilt of, you're going to waste your mom's money and blah. And I was like, I got money. I'll pay for it. She's like, I don't want your drug money. And I was like, yeah. And so I was like, bro. And so it was just this thing of like, you know what? I've committed. Because when it came up to the date, I'm thinking like, bro, this is a whole weekend. I could be making money selling dope. Like, I think there was like a party that weekend too. I don't remember. It was a long time ago. But then I remember I was like, all right, screw it. I'm going to this thing.
Because you're thinking nothing's gonna happen.
Yeah,
I'm gonna go get her off my back.
Yep.
Nothing's
The
gonna
whole
happen.
time I'm thinking this is just a waste of time to
You
get
wasted
her.
your money.
Yeah. And so then I remember like just being so angry that I was going to this thing. I remember filling my duffel with weed and just thinking, I'm going to get everybody high at this event. Literally, I'm like, bro, I don't care. I don't even care if I'm not going to make money. I'm going to give it out for free and just get everybody faded at this thing because I was just pissed.
That's wild. What year was this?
This was, 2012. I don't remember. I was 17 or 18. Yeah, it was like 12 years ago, something like that.
Wow.
And then I remember getting on the bus, and funny enough, the first person that ever talked to me was Gus. And I remember I'm sitting in the back. I had my headphones on, and I was bald, looked like a cholito back then. And I remember you came up, started talking with me. I was like, bro, who's this curly-headed nerd over here, bro? And you came
Bro,
up.
I didn't have curly hair.
I don't remember which. Oh, yeah, you had like a buzz, right?
A helmet head,
yeah,
bro.
that's
It looked
funny.
like a Lego.
Yeah, and you came up, and then you were talking to me, and then you pointed out your brother, Big Lou, and Big Lou is, he was gang affiliated growing up, so he looked like more of a cholo than me. So it was like, they gave you that little bit of respect with me of like, all right, maybe this one knows something, whatever. So then,
which is why I did it.
Yeah,
it's like
pretty much.
Like I'm not afraid of you. Like I have my brother. I'm like
freaking Big Lou over here, and so. And then I remember I go to this event. They do their thing that Friday night. It's like, I think it was like worship and somebody spoke or something. We had dinner. Then I remember I went back to the cabin and I had packed a bowl and I was going outside to smoke. And I'm sitting outside this like deck of the cabin and I'm about to light up. And like these three guys, it was Kike, Edgar, and Alex Alcaraz.
Yeah,
and they all came from the side, and I just remember quickly, I just put it under my shirt, and I'm just sitting there. And then they came up and just started talking with me, and I'm like, bro, the whole time I'm just sitting there like, shut up, bro, like just leave. I just want to smoke. Like the whole time I'm sitting here with it under my shirt. And they just started talking, and I started getting to know kind of who they are, and they all were, I think except for probably Edgar, but like they were all either affiliated or involved in this life of drugs, of gangs, of graffiti, all that. And then I remember having this thought, which I realize now is the Holy Spirit. And I had this thought of like, man, these guys, and Big Lou popped into my head, seeing him on the bus. And I was like, man, all these guys had what I have right now and were in this life, but they gave it up for this Jesus. And I remember thinking, like, maybe I'm missing something. Maybe there's something here. And I remember I made the smartest and dumbest choice of my life was to not get high that weekend. And mind you, it was, bro, there was literally never a minute I wasn't high. I would wake up, smoke. I'd smoke throughout my whole day.
And then
at night, bed. Every minute of every day I was on something because I just didn't want to feel. And I remember the next day, I'm like, damn, bro, this life, I felt like drunk being sober because I was like, this is not normal. Like seeing the world without drugs was so weird to me. Yeah. So waking up that morning and not smoking and just like, I felt like hungover. I had a headache. Like it was just weird. And then I remember they started doing the whole teaching, and they brought in these papers. They gave us these papers and told us to fill them out. And I remember these papers were just all sins, like sins you had committed. And I remember just like, I'm like, yep. And then I look over and I'm like looking around and I'm like, bro, these fools got like 1, 2, 3 check mark boxes.
There's like 25 on the paper.
Yeah. And I'm like, bro, my page is black. I'm like, I'm just filling every box.
Dang, that's wild.
And then I was like, man, whatever, bro. Like, I'm gonna be authentic, be real. So I put it then they have us put it in an envelope. They bring out these crosses. They had us go up, nail our envelopes to the cross, and then pastor came up and he was talking about the crucifixion, the blood of Jesus. And he started putting red paint over all the envelopes. And then they left. I forget, we did some other stuff throughout the day. Then they brought him back in later, and he gave another sermon on the resurrection and the power of the blood of Jesus.
Yeah.
And they had us go up and unnail our envelopes from the cross. And I remember he kept talking, and then we finally opened our envelopes, and it was a completely different paper. And it said, "Your sins have been washed and forgiven by the blood of Jesus." And in that moment, like, something just came over me, and I just fell on my face and just wept. And I cried for hours, bro. Like, it was this moment of, I just felt unburdened. Like
everything just
all the
lifted.
things I had seen, all the things I had done, everything could be forgiven. And it was something I never thought was a possibility. It was like what Spencer was saying, it was like, I was that guy who I thought, I'm unredeemable. Like, I remember I would talk about, like, yeah, I know I got demons, like, and didn't care, like, and just, I was unredeemable, bro. And in that moment, thinking, this is possible for me to be free from all these things that burden me. Because at the end of the day, it's like, you even what I was saying, I felt this sense of accomplishment with the music, with the money, with the girls, with what I was doing. But if we're all being real, at the end of the day, it's never fulfilling.
Yeah.
There's always something. Like, that's why you see so many rich, billionaires who get divorced or who separate from their kids or whatever,
or even commit suicide.
And it's like, bro, you got all the money, you could have everything you want in this world, but it's not enough.
Right.
And so it was like this moment of, this void that I have can be filled.
Yeah.
And it was just like, damn, like, and so that was the moment I was like, yeah, bro, like, I've strived to be as authentic and as genuine in every situation, every person I meet, regardless of if it's good or bad. And so it came to this thing of, like, God is real, Jesus is real, and I'm like, I need to run with what's real.
Yeah.
And so that was the moment I decided to give my life to the Lord.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Thanks for sharing that. So, which is amazing, because 10 years, 3 to 13, you're experiencing pain, and in a moment you feel it's gone, I'm forgiven. 13 to 18, you do all these things, everything that we mentioned already, and in a moment, gone and forgiven. The acceptance of brotherhood, you're experiencing it now in a completely different way.
Yeah.
With these 3 dudes, my brother, and then whoever else you started becoming friends with around. And it's crazy how in a moment, this 3-day weekend that you thought nothing was going to happen, I'm going to get my mom off my back.
Yeah.
The three major things, I mean, I'm sure there's more in there, but the 3 major things that you were wanting to find freedom or satisfaction, and you experienced it all in one weekend.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Man. And then I do want to hit on this, because I think it's very crucial and important to understand that, like, choosing to follow Jesus is not easy.
Mm-hmm.
So I remember coming back to my lifestyle and thinking, like, now I think with good authority, thinking I'm the man, because I'm like, now I got Jesus, and I'm like, ain't, no weapon formed against me shall prosper. I'm like, I'm whatever. But the biggest thing was, nobody taught me to be a Christian. I have to read the Word. I have to study the words of God. Like, I have to pray. I have to. In my mind, it was this thing of, like, I had this moment. I knew God was real, and I'm like, I'm just gonna try to be a better person. And then I remember I would talk to my homeboys about Jesus, and then not that long after, I ended up relapsing. And so I fell back into doing drugs. I fell back into drinking. I fell back into sleeping around. And then there was this moment. I remember it so vividly. I was sitting in my parents' backyard. I was smoking a blunt. And I had this, like, money on the table from just selling. And I remember just feeling so empty. And I remember thinking, it was like 3 months of me, like, being sober, like,
after that
following
retreat
Jesus
weekend.
after that retreat weekend. And then it was 3 months later I relapsed. And then after that, it was like half a year of me doing all this stuff. So then now I'm at this point, I'm sitting in my backyard. And I remember thinking, those 3 months were the happiest, the freest I've ever felt in my life.
Wow.
And I'm like, because I remember sitting there and I'm like, bro, I got the money, I got the drugs, I got the girls, but I'm not happy.
Yeah.
And I remember going on my phone and I was like, man, maybe I remember thinking, all right, maybe if I have sex, I'll feel better. And I remember going on my phone and call this girl. And right before this girl's name, it was Alex. And Alex was the guy who talked to me outside. And I know now it was the Holy Spirit. And I just clicked the phone.
Dang.
And I called Alex. And it just turned out to be that night was his small group. And so he drives from Sylmar to Woodland Hills, which is like an hour drive. So he drives to pick me up, then drives me back to small group. And then at the end of it, drives me back home and drives back. And I remember that day at small group, Alex was slick, bro. Like, he knows how to talk to my kind. And I remember the one thing he says, I don't know if we'll have to bleep this out, but he said, this walk is not for pussies. And that was the moment I was like, bro, I ain't no, I'm real.
It's
whatever.
true though.
It's true. It is. And so I remember that day was like, yeah, I'm in this. And then it was from that day forward. And I mean, we all have issues. There's times where I would have a slip up, whether it was with a girl or, smoke some or whatever. But like, it was never back to that life because I knew this is real. I started to read the word. I started to understand who God was. I started to understand his character and how he sees me, who I'm created to be. And it completely changed the game because it was like, now it became this thing of everyone has to know this. And so then now, after having time with the Lord, coming back to the homeboys, now I had a different kind of authority because I knew it wasn't me.
Yeah.
And I knew it was he who was inside me is greater than who was in the world.
Yeah. Dang, that's crazy. So we have a few minutes left. So here's it's so interesting how the Lord allows that stuff because you had this weekend, you experienced all these things, right? Because you thought nothing was going to happen. And then you have 3 months of experiencing it really well, right? The freedom and the happiness and everything you're feeling on the inside. And then 6 months of going back, taking 20 steps back, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, and I've seen that the Lord would do that or allow that in our lives because it's this like, you're going to choose.
Yeah.
You're going to have to choose. In the same way, the difference between your dad beating you and your friends beating you is that you chose for your friends to beat you. You chose for that lifestyle. You chose to do these things. You chose to sell these things. And now it's like, okay, I chose to go to that weekend. I got 3 months experiencing it, right? And then now I'm choosing to go back. But then you had another moment of like, I'm choosing now. So as we close, let me ask you this question. So for any young guy, young girl who is in this wrestle right now of becoming an unlikely saint, like what would you say to them that would be the thing that would help them choose to go in a direction that is freedom, true freedom in God?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's so much to unpack, but I think the biggest thing is just like you'll never experience the joy, the happiness, the fulfillment that you'll find in Jesus and anything else. And don't listen to what the world tells you of, no, that's not cool. That's not, whatever. Like, bro, none of that matters. All those, it's like what Gus was saying. All those homeboys are either dead, in prison, or they're no longer in my life. But the ones who remained were my family. And you have to understand that the church, that Jesus, that brothers and sisters are the ones who really are going to ride with you for life. And so don't worry about what the world will tell you or what people will say. It's like, one, and I think this is some key to hit on, is like, do you want to make it to heaven? Are you focused so much on this life and not on what's to come? And two, it's like, do you want to have such a joy, such a freedom, such a life that you know that you are loved by the creator of the universe? And I think it's just take that step, say yes, even say that prayer and ask God, if you're real, show me. If you're real, do something. And if you're real, like, I give my life to you, and watch what God will do, because I should be dead or in prison. There's no other way around it. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And now I am married. I have 2 kids, one on the way, live in a beautiful home, have beautiful friends and family around my life who genuinely care for you, genuinely look out for you. And you give your life to God, and sure, it won't be easy because the world is against you, but the things that matter, God will take care of. And so just take that step.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
So all I got to say now is thanks for creating Unlikely Saints.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing your story. Thanks for having me interview you. And for those who don't know, you are the creator of Unlikely Saints, and your passion and your hope is to reach and transform lives of people that are in that lifestyle or are in the moment of transition out, knowing that they can find sustainability in Christ, and long-term freedom, and not just momentary freedom. So if anybody needs to get a hold of you, this is the place to do it, right here. Whether they're watching or listening, this is the right place to get a hold of you, and click any of the links that we have right here on you. Well, anyways, thanks for having me and letting me interview, bro. I love you.
Love you, man. And thank you guys for tuning in. Hope to see you next week. And comment, like, subscribe, hit any of the links. If you need any help in anything you're going through in your life, let us know. We're here for you. And thanks for tuning in to the Unlikely Saints.